All right, everybody, welcome to Spiritually Raw. How are you this fantastic day? And as always, we hope your ascension stuff, all you're trying to get through in life is working out for you. Hope it's all landing where you need to land. Hey, we got a soul sister here to help us. If it's not, Aurora Luna Star. Okay, so all of our links will be down there below. She's a soul vibrational alchemist, interdimensional channel for the elders of the cosmos. So you may have seen her on Gnostic TV before too. We'd interview her there, and she's also got her own show on there too. Yeah.
Yeah, she specializes in starseed Akashic readings, sound activations, and personal empowerment. She is the host of Infinite Soul, the Infinite Soul on the Gnostic TV network, and we are so excited to have you back. I love your energy. You're so colorful, and you
literally.
I know, and it's listen. I don't know if anyone's having a bad moment. All they have to do is literally just feed into your energy and feel the vibration. And I mean, if that doesn't help you, if that doesn't lift you, I don't know.
Yeah, listen, it's good to have you back again. It's great to reconnect with you. Thank you. So let's dive in to get the people to get to know you that haven't seen you here, and also to help, just maybe hopefully something that, we talk about today can help trigger something and activate something within you as you go. But these elders of the cosmos that we were talking about that you channel, can you give us a vibe for who they are to you and what they kind of share through you?
Sure. The elders are a collective from the multiverse. And so at any moment in time, we could be working with, and it's funny, I just did Ruben Langdon's show. So when he asked the same question, and then he asked, is are any groups in particular here? And so I was able to share that through the multiverse, I can channel really any kind of group of being that's of the highest light, because that is my intention whenever I'm channeling. And so it can be really any energy, even within Gaia, because there are times when there are elementals that wish to speak, when there are groups of beings. And the reason why they gave me elders is because the wisdom is already there. It's ancient energy to us, especially because we're a little bit new in terms of the time-space continuum and and life forms. And with that said, they didn't want me to get stuck in my ego because they know me really well. Meaning they didn't want me thinking that I was only going to channel Mary Magdalene or only going to channel Archangel Michael or have to be specific, because if I got caught in that ego trap, it wouldn't serve me or anyone else. And so for me, they made it very vast and broad, and then allow me to know intermittently when I'm channeling some of the energy that may be present. Like, for instance, it could be the Arcturians, it could be the Pleiadians, it could be an energy of fairy frequency, it can be an energy of dolphins and whales, who are really our record keepers of the planet. It can be a vast array of different kinds of energy. And so they just have desired to keep me in the space of the all, because even when my awareness is when one individual is speaking, they really say we regardless, kind of like when Abraham speaks, it's a collective, right? So it's all the same kind of idea. Even if it's Mother Mary that comes through, she's speaking on behalf of all energies of mothers, all the ascended feminine women that are within the realm of a frequency, right? It's all about love, compassion, and forgiveness. So Kuan Yin represents that, Ipana, Hina, Bridget, I could go on, Lakshmi, ad nauseum. There's beautiful, I shouldn't say ad nauseum, but there's a lot of names out there of beings that are present for love and to share. So they keep it general. And then, again, for instance, when I was recently channeling, I could hone in on, there was a First Nation group of beings. There was the Arcturian beings there. And the First Nation beings were actually grandmothers. They really wanted to share this powerful energy of love, because on the planet right now, obviously, we're navigating some really crunchy times. We're navigating war in ways that I'm not sure we thought we'd see it show up again. And even, interestingly enough, the amount of, I don't know what to call it. I don't know if I want to call it, but just against groups having now actions take place, that there is a kind of prejudice happening again, a rise of prejudice happening again. And so it's interesting to behold and to know that our purpose then becomes to stand in that neutrality. And we can talk about that if you want to, but just focusing on a new timeline, because when we focus on taking sides, even if one seems very wrong, we contribute to the problem. If we want to create a new outcome, we need to be focusing on what we desire to see happen. We need to be creating a new timeline with our thoughts, because the quantum field has no idea whether or not it's our reality or our imagination. So if we start putting into the quantum field the idea of the things we want to see happening, then those ideas start to spread throughout collective consciousness, and they plant seeds, right? So eventually someone starts a war, but nobody shows up, kind of idea.
Before we get to the timelines, because that is always such a fascinating topic, and I could talk about timelines all day long. You said that the dolphins and the whales are the record keepers. Explain that.
Well, if you look at the mammals, I mean, the size of a whale comparative to the size of a human, and now imagine the size of the whale's brain, right? They're mammals. They may not have appendages and be walking on the planet, but they're in the depths of Gaia, and they are keeping track of what's happening in humanity. They're also, in my awareness, I get a full body yes on that, they're also keeping track of the balance of what's happening on Gaia through the ages. Whales have been around. We have in Sedona, the ocean that was here is 400 million years ago, and they have found fossils of what resemble whale-like beings.
Whale-like beings?
In Sedona?
Yes, not in Sedona, but in the valleys around Sedona.
Human? I just want to make sure I got what you said. Do you mean like half human, half whale?
No.
Big whales, like the skeleton.
Yes.
Yeah, but not just whale, like shark, jellyfish. There's energies that are ancient that have been on this planet for a very long time, keeping an awareness of what's happening. Also, even dolphins often are going to places where big storms are happening to shift vibrational frequency. The elemental kingdom wants to work with humanity's emotional field to help shift what's happening on the planet so that our timelines are in a potential that can have a higher trajectory. And at the same time, humanity really has lost a lot of connection.
Can you have multiple? So when you think in terms of timelines, so can it be where like we're on a different timeline, someone else is on a different timelines, but yet we see each other? You know what I mean? Like, so we maybe can see each other, but is it possible that we're living different timelines as far as that goes?
Concurrently, yes. My awareness is that you could have different trajectories for people and be in the same time space, but what eventually does happen is you do stop seeing them, because eventually you're vibrating. So for instance, I had a very challenging first 6 months in Sedona. I almost never see the person that challenge unfolded with, partially because I left it with love. I kind of shrugged my shoulders and knew that we weren't going to really come to a resolution around things. And I realized that what needed to change was me. It was not going to be that person, because that's always the way. We want to choose victim consciousness and point the finger at someone, but 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, we're the ones who need to shift our perspective. And it doesn't mean you accept bad behavior per se, but if you want to shift consciousness into a higher state where you're not experiencing that same lesson over and over and over again, the only way out is through. And I recognize that my vibration kept inviting this circumstance in because I kept blaming the other person for the situation that I was essentially creating for my own soul lesson. As soon as I let it go,
it's a lot of soul searching to get to that point.
Holy Hannah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Missy, it did. But when you realize it, so I've run into that person once in the past 5 years that I've lived in Sedona, because we are not in the same vibration. And it doesn't make me better than them at all. Everyone's here to do what we're all here to do, whatever that means. If we don't have a loyal opposition, we don't grow. So this person acted as a loyal opposition on my behalf to offer me an opportunity for growth.
And that's how you saw that.
That's really good.
Is that the way? Do we just really kind of need to always look at that? Like, hey, if you get really pissed off at someone or frustrated, are you in that place? Have you gotten that place where you're like, what did I do to cause that? Is that you know what I mean? Is that the way to kind of think? Is it really that's it versus like, look, you son of a
Look
whatever,
what you did to
look what
me.
you did to me.
It's all your fault.
May you
There's
always
still victim energy in my frequency, for sure. There is someone I would love to resolve with, and every time I think about them, I still get angry. So I understand that I co-created this energy, and I know that I'm not a victim, but my inner child has not caught up to understanding or understanding why we created it, and that we were both hurting. And from that place of pain, usually people create pain, right? And so there's a part of me that just wants to be over it already, but I have to take the steps. I can't just bypass the feelings, because the feelings are real, until I can come to that place. The first situation I spoke about was more of a business transaction. It wasn't personal, right? Ultimately, they could have owed me money because there was a bit of a, let's say, not an authenticity thing that happened. But then I said to myself, well, I can be mad at them and sue them and get my money back, or I could just not be in lack and not worry about it and let someone else teach them that lesson. It doesn't need to be me. I don't want to walk with the heaviness of what a lawsuit that might take a year to get, like a couple $1,000, like whatever.
I mean, you're constantly dragging that energy around with you.
Totally, 100%. The second one I'm speaking to is definitely more personal. It was a situation that's harder for me to process because this person's close to me. And then, of course, offered me a mirror that close in my face, right? So it becomes harder to not feel like, I was talking to Jen Hill recently for my show, actually, and she said that, the closer that we are to someone, the younger we act. And that was
I agree with that. What's that? Yeah, I agree with that.
That's
I think there's a lot. I think that there's a lot.
That's pretty eye-opening.
It is, and you know why? Because it allows you to just be silly and have fun, and you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And I think I agree with that 100%.
What do you think on like what's your like when you get back into like trying to resolve with people, for example? I mean, in today's world, 2023. Okay, so what do you think about like our need to be more telepathically communicating now? What do at first it's maybe a novelty for so many people, but I mean, are we getting to a place where it's almost critical to do that? What is your thoughts on that as far as our communications?
I don't know that I think it's critical. I feel like cell phones are the first step. Like text messaging becomes almost that telepathic way of communicating because it's like through the airwaves, right? But really, essentially what ends up happening is that in order to really be in that telepathic space and be really hearing and or connecting with the truth of what you're receiving, you need to be in your heart space. It's a heart-mind energy. It is not a brain energy. And so I would say the importance of it is that we all really need to be getting into that heart-mind space, because that is what our evolution is all about. We need the mind. The mind, I always giggle when people are like, love and light. And I'm like, yeah, and shadow too. And there's room for everything.
Love, light, shadow.
That's good.
Love,
I like that.
shadow.
I'm going to start saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, we can't forget that we're still processing our lower 3 chakras and all the things that are stuck there, survival and, giving our power away and all that fun stuff. And then when I think about going into the heart mind, that's where I know I'm working right now, right? Even to resolve that thing that I haven't resolved yet. It's working on the fact that no one ever does anything to harm us on purpose. And even those that do, let's say terrorism or whatever else could be going on in the world, their consciousness has been hijacked. Right? Take away the basic needs that people have, and you can create a soldier out of anyone. And I don't mean just a soldier, because soldiers are not all bad. I mean like the kind that could really just do harm to women and children and anyone because of whatever their belief has been fed to them, whatever that means. Right? So my awareness is that if we get into the heart mind, we're in a place where our thoughts and the desire for the highest of all concerned becomes the reality that we desire. And then our telepathy or channeling or whatever it is we're calling in is no longer fear-based, is no longer sharing messages of doom and gloom, but we're really just sharing, keep your alignment in knowing who you are as a divine being of light and also in a human body. And, it's not about letting people behave badly or just allowing things to happen without acknowledging the shadow, right? The shadow is coming up so loud right now, not just on a global level, but I feel all of my friends are navigating some really deep core challenges right now because we can't take the past forward into the future that we're creating.
There's a lot of different interpretations of the 144,000. What's your interpretation?
Yeah, I don't, the minute that someone tells me that evolution looks a certain way or has a certain number connected to it, I kind of can't process it because that's not my truth. My truth is all paths lead back to one source, and there are many of us doing many different things that are all going to count towards the evolution of humanity. And at some point, I do feel that as we get more into the heart space, we are getting into a closer energy with each other too, right? Because even in spirituality, there's so many different opinions and so many like you're doing this and you're doing that duality energy, which I find to be really funny because we're supposed to kind of be accepting each other for whatever our beliefs are, and all of it's okay. My awareness is like, even if you read Power versus Force, which is David R. Hawkins' book on the energy of calibrating or measuring emotion, and that anyone that can sustain 500 to 700, which was something like harmony, love, and peace, only 86 people would be needed to ascend or evolve the entire planet. But that's not why we're here. We're all here. We all chose to go through our process of getting rid of karma, of finding our source self. Like 8 billion people chose to show up for this party. Why would 144,000 or 85 or a small number of people be able to, I'm not saying it's not possible that it couldn't happen, because that's not my belief either, but I do believe that we're here to go through the process of evolving. I want to learn the lessons that I'm here to learn, and I don't want anyone to take it away from me through a quantum leap. I came to go big or go home. So I'm here to, figure out how to remember my divinity as much as I can, how to choose my thoughts as much as I can, how to feel my emotions even when they're ugly and dark, and give myself space to feel and not make it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the people that are going to go through existence right now, like they came here, there's 8 billion people. I mean, do you believe that? So everybody came to have an experience, right? You know what I mean? Just to kind of feel like that. So do you believe in the concept that there's no victims, there's only willing participants?
Yeah, that's what we kind of spoke to a little bit last time. Yeah, I mean, that is, and again, when you're talking about a hostage situation right now, and people living in Palestine in terrible circumstances, and then like when you're looking at this very acutely, it's very hard for people to hear that there are no victims. When you look at all the children in Africa that died of AIDS, when you look at even the children in Africa who've been used as soldiers, when you look at the Ukraine, when you look at, like, if you're very close to these topics, it's very hard to say everyone's choosing. And that is still my belief. And of course, you're not choosing on a 3D energy because we all came in with amnesia, right? But I also believe, like, I'll give you my own personal, for instance, my brother passed away last year at 54 years old. He was 3 kinds of schizophrenic and bipolar. And I believe that he took on that energy to be one of the people to help lift it off the planet. And I can feel his multidimensional being. I feel him as I speak about him in this moment. And even though I would have never chosen for him the way he passed away or all the challenges that he endured in life, that was his soul contract. That was what he came in on some level of being, knowing that he would experience. And he wanted to do that. He came, so to me, when children die young or when horrible things happen, there's a purpose beyond our awareness and our understanding, because we are part of a collective, right? We are part of an entire huge race of beings who are going through an evolution. And evolution is not simple and it's not easy. And I am not omniscient. Even in the channel, like, there's lots of things they won't tell me and I don't get to know. And I'm okay with that.
Is there a reason for that?
Sure. Because even if let's say I did know all the things that were going to be, I'm not it goes back to the 144. Like, none of us are here to take away the journey that all of us came to experience.
Mm-hmm.
I have an awareness around my own personal journey. I know I died in the Holocaust. I know I had a lot of sexual and physical abuse, all kinds of things going way back into many lifetimes on Gaia. Gaia was never a really fun place for me. I had a lot of fun in the cosmos, but Gaia was really rough. I gave up on my life in many lifetimes and just committed suicide and set them out. In this life, I came in with 9 near-death experiences by the time I was 5 years old. And I remember wanting to kill myself at 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I remember wanting to kill myself many times over and just not having the gumption to actually do it. And my awareness is that I've reached this.
Real quick, that feeling that you had at 8, because that is such a young age to feel that way. Do you think that that was residual leftover energy from past lives that energy was seeping through into this lifetime?
It could be, though. I mean, I had a lot of turmoil, right? So 9 near-death experiences by the time I was 5 was this life. So I was navigating, not knowing what to do with all of the emotions that I was feeling. I was feeling despair. I was feeling angry. I was feeling abandoned. I was feeling like I just wanted to scream, and even screaming wasn't going to fix it. I just didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't want to go through the things that were hurting me anymore. And I just didn't know, it didn't, even at 8 years old, it didn't make sense to me that this was my life experience.
Do you think that if you would have, do you think all of us would be like, okay, we're making the decision to, let's call it reincarnate here on the earth. Do you think if we knew that, would we change our mind and say, take me back? I've changed my mind. You know what I mean? Versus saying like, oh man, like the thought process, if, we think about it obviously differently here. Like,
right.
What goes into the thought process to say, look, you know what, I'm going to be a burn victim, or I'm going to walk around with, one leg missing, or I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be part of a, what you think about what goes into that thought process. Can you help us to understand from the spirit side of it, how they actually make that decision to say, these are the events that we're going to experience in this body? Is it more of a game? Is it as simple as saying, hey, you know what, we're bored, so let's play this game? Like, how's it reconciled?
I don't think it's quite a game, but I think to the point of where even what I chose in this moment, I've already cleared all my past life karma around suicide, because I made it to this moment and all times now. And I don't think I ever made it to this age in a body on earth ever. So
Congratulations.
what I've cleared, right? Thank you very much. So what I think happens for a soul in general, no matter what they're choosing in their hardships, is the monad, the energy of the soul, has a very specific vibration, and it gets density pieces stuck in it from different life experiences, but it wants to come to resolution with those experiences. It wants to clear the karma. It wants to get rid of all of the different pieces. I know in Atlantis that I went darker than Darth Vader. My wife and my 2 children were murdered in some sort of experimentation, and I wanted to kill and did kill a lot of people, which is why I think I paid for it in my life, where I got killed in the Holocaust. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who dies in a certain way is paying that kind of a karma. That's not my truth. But there is an intricacy to the things that we weave, where we come to an equilibrium, because everything in the universe wants to find balance and harmony, everything, including a soul journey. So if I'm walking around with all of this density, my soul is continually asking me to find ways to heal certain dense pieces and find complete forgiveness around a biological mother who abused me and my brothers, and just all the bad things that happened, that I got gifted a family who adopted me, right? Like I brought into balance a lot of soul pieces of the hardships, because the hardships now seem so much lighter comparative to all of the density that I experienced then. Right? It doesn't mean my soul has nothing left to learn by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not walking on water. I don't have angel wings. And at the same time, the challenges that arise are really challenges about embodying my badassery as a source being. Like, I can manifest anything, so why don't I? Because your thoughts, your words, your feelings are constantly creating and manifesting everything. So if I want to manifest specific things, I just need to choose my focus and not get attached to the outcome. Let source give to me divine time, but keep my focus, keep my heart, keep my vibe, because it's all about the vibe. It's all about staying in the space of recognizing myself as a creator versus a victim. My prayer whenever I see the homeless guys around Sedona is that they remember the divinity that they are. And I get that when you're so far down.
Prayer that you actually say in your mind?
Yeah.
Would you share that?
Sure. It's just, I call upon this soul to remember the divinity that they are, that they have royalty within them, and that they have God, goddess, source, all that is within them. And I ask for someone to mirror that back to them. Like, so my awareness is sometimes it can be me. Sometimes I have money in my pocket or something. I always look them in the eye. I always call them brother. I always let them know that they have love in the world for that is being sent towards them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then they have to see it for themselves. That's the journey. But the thing is, if you can't even feel it for yourself because no one ever showed it to you, you don't really have a frequency to start with, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people feel abandoned in so many different ways. And I don't consider it my job alone, but I do desire to see, like, sometimes I'm just driving past them and that's my prayer, right? When an ambulance goes by, I say a prayer for those who are assisting and those who need assistance, because both are going to need the prayer. You never know as an ambulance driver what you're walking into, or a cop, right? They deal with so many different traumatic that most people like you and I, if we had to see that stuff every day, we'd have nightmares every night, right? So I honor that's part of what they're here to do.
You know, I want to shift gears here for a second to the Galactics, if I may. So when you think in the Galactics, as far as like the Palladians, the Arcturians, the Greys, or whatever, and you know, people get in awe of all that structure. Is it the same as like us being, you know, white, black, you know, Indian, Asian? I mean, is it really the same kind of thing? There's a universe that particular, you know, energy lives, and they have it compartmentalized the way we do on Earth?
No, I think it's vastly, or my feeling, I should say, is that it's vastly different than what we've got going on here, in so much that they're responsible for creating different aspects of being. So I'll phrase it to you how I understand it, and anyone can disagree with me. And if there's anyone who doesn't feel this is truth for you, you can toss it. It's all good. I'm not offended. Like, for instance, I experience Arcturians as those who walk with a very powerful frequency of understanding spiritual technology. So when I think of scalar technology, I think of Arcturians. Anyone who's like sharing that with the planet, all the different kinds of technology that there are for healing, you know, the ASEA stuff, the life patches, life wave patches, like all that stuff to me is very Arcturian in nature. And I get like, oh, we're back. Sorry about that. Okay. So I get not 100%, but I get something to that effect. Like, I feel like what Spirit just gave me was like, yes, you have an awareness of something. You're getting closer, kind of like I'm warm. So the same with Sirius. Sirius to me represents the healing arts, sound healing, essential oils, plants. There's a lot of different. And then the thing is, like, Arcturus and Sirius and all of that, which is in our Milky Way, is actually seeded from somewhere else in the multiverse. So it's not even the inception point. But when I even like would close my eyes and meditate on Shasta, and let's say there was an Arcturian ship, there were usually other beings in that Arcturian ship that were an Arcturian. Their awareness, ability to collaborate and share information and cohabitate is very different than ours. There isn't that level of fear. We walk with a ton of fear in our root chakras. It was handed to us in our consciousness on purpose, whatever that means. I don't like to get into the rabbit hole of the specifics, but it is my awareness that our consciousness is absolute bunk. It's BS. It's not real. But what we think today, we're going to think tomorrow. So we're very easily manipulated by media. We're very easily manipulated by, whatever ideas are repeated.
Yeah. Food source was very manipulated.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just read something today. You have to repeat something 400 times for a synapse to create a new pattern, unless you're having fun. If you're having fun, you only need to repeat it 20 times. And if you repeat it 20 times while you're having fun, the synapse will repeat.
That's great.
Right? So if you look at school and how many hours kids spend in school not having fun, learning how to essentially be slaves for corporate America versus, how much time they spend being creative. I mean, how many music programs got canceled, art programs got canceled. Suddenly schools don't have money for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's taking away the imagination from the kids who are already here, knowing who they are and what they're here to do.
So who's the real, again, that gets back to the thing is the willing participants. So for example, when as a society, as a general society, I'm not saying any individual, but as a general society, you enable that behavior, then is it really like, for example, people blame about the laws or the this Congress person. Well, you elected them. You know what I mean? You
Right.
let them in. Like, I mean, are we really, again, aren't we to blame really if we enable that behavior? Should we be pointing and say that school system, that school system, that school, you know what I mean?
Right. And it's up to us to start to enact change and say, that's not what I want for my kid. That's not what I want for the place where I live. That's not acceptable anymore. The challenge is, again, when you're navigating, and yes, everything is a contract. And that's where, again, I speak about the loyal opposition. We need these things in order to wake us up. And the challenge is that life has become very convenient. And so through that convenience, the nutrition has left our food, and microwaves have become how people have cooked. And banks are taking away cash, but making credit very easy. And then people get up to their eyeballs in credit and suddenly are not even working for money anymore. Now they're working to pay off huge amounts of debt, right? And they can't even get above their debt. And then they live for 3 weeks vacation a year. And so all of this programming, you're right. There is an agreement in place, but there's also an enlightenment happening right now. And I believe that even though COVID was very challenging and a lot of people left the planet through that process, whatever that means, there's also a realization happening where people are like, I'm not going to work like this anymore. I'm not going to go into the office and give my life away anymore. I want to be home with my kids. I want to, it's amazing to me that part of what's been created is that during the most essential years of a child's life, the parents are away at work. The school system gets to take over what consciousness gets fed, right? So again, we're coming to a point where we realize, maybe that's not the way to do this anymore. Maybe we want to look
crazy if you think about it from that perspective. Yeah, but you're right. A lot of people, I think that might have been an eye-opener for people watching. It's like the years that we're supposed to be there. We're not generally just then someone else.
No, parents are busy working, trying to make sure that they can pay for their house, pay for their cars, pay for their vacations, pay for, what the kids need.
Right. What is a starseed, and ultimately, are we all forms of starseeds?
My awareness is the latter. My awareness is, again, everybody's here to do something different, meaning not everyone's going to wake up, and that's okay. I don't know if my mom is going to wake up, and I don't mind. She's 83 years old. She's lived her life. She's done good on this planet. She's been an amazing parent to myself and my 3 sisters. And I don't need to convince her of starseeds. I don't need to convince her of, the big picture. She'll cross over in her time and she'll get enlightened through all of that stuff when she gets there, and all is well in the world. She's fully vaccinated, all the things, and all I can do is love her. I don't mind. It doesn't matter. All is well. Because she believes in it. And so it works for her. I don't have to. What was that?
I'm agreeing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that they,
right.
yeah.
And then I do know she's a starseed. Recently, I told the story when I was around 13 years old. I was in a parking lot waiting for my mom to pick me up, and there was absolutely no one around. An Arcturian ship came down. It looked like straight out of the movies, like maybe Close Encounters. It was round. It had the round lights. It circled once. It stopped. It circled another way. It stopped. And then it flashed its lights and then it disappeared. And I maybe lost 15, 20 minutes. It wasn't like a huge span of time. And my mom came and picked me up and I told her about it. And she did not think I was nuts, which was unbelievable. So my awareness is that everyone on the planet is here doing what they're here to do. We all have DNA that can be awakened anytime, at any moment. It's like another example I often use, because I was in Israel as a volunteer in the Israeli army a long time ago, and there were 2 bus bombings that summer. And so my example is, a terrorist can put on a vest and doesn't have to go through with it. Right? At some point, something can change their mind or awaken. And that's true for every single one of us, no matter what awakening looks like. That's obviously an extreme example, but anything can happen at any time that makes someone realize that they want to start living life in a different way, and that they really are beautiful, and that they really are precious, and that they don't have to think less than of themselves anymore. And they don't have to hold themselves hostage with the mistakes that they've made in life, right? At any moment, anyone could hear a message from any person or a song on the radio and just realize that they, again, I feel like COVID was a gift in a lot of ways, because people started understanding that life is tenuous, ephemeral, can be taken away like that, whatever that means. And they saw it in real time. It wasn't just off in the distance, happening away from them where they're not impacted by it. It happened in front of them. It happened to their family. It happened to their loved ones. And they started wanting to live life differently. And so I feel like that's true, that star seeds are all of us. I feel like we all have, I don't think it's just one group or age group or anything. I feel like at any moment, anyone anywhere can awaken to realizing their divinity. And I feel like it's happening exponentially more quickly right now. We are a collective consciousness. And so as more within the collective are awakening to this realization, I mean, again, the loyal opposition is also showing up just as loud, because we're in duality. So that's the joke.
So when you take a look at like star seeds, like anyone can awaken to be a star seed. So would that like be relevant, like to, let's say they call them the indigos or the rainbow children? I mean, basically, are we all of that?
Well, if you think about it, we all came from somewhere. So that would make logical sense that we all are a form of a star seed in one layer or another.
Yes, my awareness is, I mean, that's why I give people star Akashic readings. That's one of the things that I offer to people. And it's not to tell them where they're from per se, because I believe we've all got magical DNA from the multiverse within us. We are literally made of stardust, and that is science. And with that, kind of like the ascended masters or angelics, there may be specific stars that are working with them right now as they're processing specific pieces of their being. And I can see, and again, because I can do the whole Akashic, but that would take like a lifetime. So I only pick 3. Some on occasion, a 4th will sneak in there, because there's just equal energy coming in from both places. But, part of helping people have an awareness, like an Arcturian, someone who has a lot of Arcturian energy in them isn't going to want to back down from a fight, and they don't like being shoved in a corner. They're going to come out angry. And what's funny is everyone's like, well, why would an Arcturian feel anger? And it's like, well, on their dimension where they are, they don't. But when you take that energy and you squeeze it into the density of the 3D where you're navigating polarity, that's the initial wounding, is trying to navigate what it means to have all this energy and not be able to express it authentically. Right?
As opposed to a Palladian would look like.
Right. So Pleiadians, in my awareness, they might shrink when it's like, if you're talking fight or flight, the Pleiadian isn't going to fight. The Pleiadian is going to do anything to avoid the fight, almost even sacrifice themselves to avoid the fight.
Interesting.
That's very
That is a very interesting
interesting.
perspective.
Mhm.
So listen, when people I know, when people go to visit you, they want to get a session from you, and they want to just kind of connect with you. What would you like for them to do? Kind of be more prepared for before they meet with you.
They don't have to do anything really. I mean, part of the session is talking about what you're navigating in this moment, because that's always changing. I'd say now is an exceptionally crunchy time as we head into the end of the year, even though we're heading into this time of giving and receiving and opening up our hearts to Christ frequency and just being remembering that we're all connected to one another. I love Thanksgiving. I hate that it was built on the guise of genocide, but I love the gathering of people, and I love the energy of choosing to be together and giving to people, and the holidays also coming up. And at the same time, what most of the people who are coming to me come to me because they want change. They are recognized, or they're in the middle of change and they don't know how to navigate it. I've had clients who I've had to fire myself from, because I'm not a therapist, and so much like, I'm not just going to listen to you complain about something. I'm going to ask you pointed questions to help you empower yourself to enact change. Change is what most people are seeking, but some people are really afraid. And I get that. Change is hard. Yeah. We love comfort. We love predictability. We love knowing what our lives are going to look like. And we hate surrender. Excuse me. Anyone with trauma in their field is usually a bit of a control freak. And so the word surrender is like a big F you, like, don't tell me to surrender. I'm going to control the situation. And yet spirit just keeps showing me where I need to surrender over and over and over again. And so I do. And so I keep learning with every ounce of my being that navigating life means being able to pivot and being able to not take things so seriously, being able to choose to look for the joy in life and show up in service as best we can when we can. And so my job with any person who comes to me is to bring you empowerment in the best ways that I know how. I've got gratefully a whole tool chest of different things, because not one thing works for every person. And so, it's an honor and a great joy to be able to do lots of different things to work with people. And it's exciting to watch people find their spark again and figure out.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is.
I agree.
And you do it so well too.
I know.
We really love how you roll, and the feedback we get from people working with you is just amazing. And and if you all watching, or you know who you are, you know what I mean. If you need that connection, you need someone to help get you there. If you're feeling the vibe here with Aurora Luna Star, just go to the website, check out, and get yourself set straight.
And if you want to hear more of her, make sure to check her out. She is a host on Gnostic TV.
Yes, I love my show. I've got actually a few exciting episodes coming up. I'm going to have Rob Gauthier. He's
fantastic.
Yep, Rob's that's not till January, but I've got Sandrine also coming up. She's also a channel. She lives in New Zealand. She's amazing. I met her at Suzanne's event. So she said yes. I'm excited to interview her. I have one other one coming up that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it's just, it's so much fun to share with people, because there's so much medicine out there and there's so many flavors of it, right? Well, I'm going to have you guys on my show, so I can't wait to do that too.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, we look forward to that too. So, well, you are a shining star, my dear. We do appreciate your service and everything, your dedication, your courage to humanity. I mean, we say it all the time, but we cannot underestimate the fact what it does take for someone to do what you do, to come forth and say, I don't give a fuck. This is who I am, and let me roll. So great job. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And together with Aurora's help, we are absolutely turning the universal key to global harmony and creating a unified world. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, may all your dreams come true. Many blessings.
Many blessings, everyone.
Much love.